Welcome to Daily Dharma Listening. Here, in the soft hush between thoughts, in the stillness that precedes words, we invite you to return to what is simple, to what is ancient, to what is already within you. This channel is your refuge for reflection, a space for slowness in a fast world. Before we begin this first journey together, if these teachings bring you even a moment of clarity, a breath of calm in your day, we gently ask you to subscribe, like, or share. Let the Dharma ripple outward. Let others hear what your soul hears. Now close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight of your body on the earth. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your being. In a world loud with urgency, Buddhist wisdom speaks not with thunder but with silence. It does not demand your belief, only your attention. And so, let us begin. It is said that the Buddha's path was not one of escape from suffering, but of embracing it with profound clarity. To live is to encounter change, loss, confusion. The rains fall, the winds rise, but even in the storm, there can be calm. How, then, do we stay calm and positive? How do we protect our energy in a world that often seems to pull it apart? The ancient teachings whisper the same truth across time. Suffering arises not from what happens, but from how we hold what happens. This is not a platitude, but a blade sharpened in the fires of deep practice. Consider this: when something goes wrong, a delay, a betrayal, a loss, our instinct is to fight it, resist it, name it unjust. But Buddhism for beginners gently asks us to look again. Is it the event that hurts, or our clinging to how we wish it would be? To stay calm is not to suppress emotion or deny difficulty. It is to create space around what arises. A spacious mind is not reactive. It sees the anger rise, but it does not pour oil on the fire. It notices the fear without running from it. In this way, we learn to live without fear, not because fear does not arise, but because we are no longer enslaved by it. One of the most practical Buddhist reminders when you feel lost is the teaching of the breath. The breath is always with us. It is the anchor in the sea of thoughts. When the mind rushes forward into what-ifs, or sinks backward into regrets, the breath draws us back to now. Here, this inhale, this exhale, can you feel it? That is presence. That is peace. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. This, too, can seem cold or disheartening. But look again. Impermanence means no storm lasts forever. No sadness stays uninvited. To truly see change as the nature of all things is to be freed from false hopes and unnecessary despair. The joy is in what is, not in what might be. To transform your mind is to understand that thoughts are not truth. They are weather passing through the sky of awareness. Some days cloudy, some days bright, but always changing. You are not the weather. You are the sky. Calm does not mean always being happy. It means being undisturbed at the root. In modern life, many are burdened by anxiety. Buddhist lessons for anxiety do not offer instant solutions, but they offer profound insights. The more we seek to control every variable, the more the mind tightens. But when we see clearly that we cannot control outcomes, only our responses, we are released. This is the gentle power of surrender, not giving up, but giving in to what is real. What is now? A woman once came to the Buddha, grieving the loss of her child. She asked him to bring the child back to life. The Buddha said he would. if she could find a single household untouched by death. She searched, and in every home is found sorrow. She returned, not with her child, but with awakening. The story is not about accepting tragedy passively, but about realizing we are not alone in our pain. The seed of compassion grows in the soil of shared suffering. Buddhism for beginners often begins with this recognition. The mind that seeks happiness by controlling the outer world will always be restless. But the mind that turns inward, that sees its own constructions, begins to soften. You begin to notice the subtle ways your ego says this should not be happening. And in that moment of noticing, a new door opens. Awareness steps in. And with it, the choice to be still. Protect your energy, not by shutting the world out, but by tending to your inner fire. You do not need to react to every stimulus, to answer every insult, to correct every error. Stillness is not weakness. It is wisdom, like a tree that bends in the wind but does not break. The calm mind yields without collapsing. It flows without being swept away. In our daily lives, this means simple things. You pause before replying to the harsh email. You notice the tension in your shoulders before it becomes anger. You walk slowly, eat slowly, listen deeply. You speak less but say more. You begin to sense the sacredness in each small act. This is the beginning of mindful living. This is the seed of awakening. To find peace in chaos, we must be willing to stop looking for the exit. The chaos outside often reflects the turmoil within. When we sit with our discomfort, instead of trying to fix or flee it, something miraculous happens. It begins to change. Like a wild animal that softens when not threatened, the mind settles when not judged. The heart of Buddhist teachings is not in renouncing the world, but in transforming the way we relate to it. You can be in the marketplace, among crowds and noise, and still carry the temple within. You can raise children, answer phones, pay bills, and still walk the path. The Dharma is not elsewhere. It is here, in this breath, this moment, this choice. Live without fear does not mean become fearless. It means love what is, so deeply, that fear no longer controls you. The one who sees clearly does not avoid pain, but neither does she cling to pleasure. She walks the middle path, not in bland neutrality, but in vibrant balance. Each step, a meditation, each word a prayer. As you listen now, ask yourself, where am I clinging? What am I resisting? Can I soften? Can I breathe? In these quiet inquiries, the ancient wisdom lives again. These are not merely Buddhist reminders, they are living truths, waiting to be rediscovered in the folds of your day. So the next time you feel lost, overwhelmed, or simply weary, pause. Touch your heart. Breathe. You are not broken. You are becoming. The journey is not to another place, but to a deeper presence within the life you already live. Thank you for listening, for being here, for opening yourself to the quiet revolution of awareness. May these reflections serve you well. May you carry them into your morning coffee, your evening silence, your midnight thoughts. And if they've brought even a flicker of clarity, we invite you once more to subscribe, to like, to share, not for numbers, but for ripples, for others who, like you, are ready to return. This is Daily Dharma Listening, and this is only the beginning. Part 2. Protect your energy, cultivating inner stillness in a restless world. In the ever-shifting tide of modern existence, where noise invades even the most private corners of our minds and demands claw at our attention from all directions, there arises a quiet yearning, often unnamed, yet deeply felt, the yearning to protect one's energy, to shield the flame of our inner presence from the winds of chaos, not through resistance, nor through escape, but through the art of inward resting, through ancient ways taught under the Bodhi tree, when the world was quieter and time moved not by clocks but by breath and moonlight. The Buddha did not promise a life devoid of turbulence. What he offered instead was a path toward clarity amid that turbulence. He taught not suppression, but awareness. Not detachment in the form of coldness, but detachment as liberation from that which binds and drains. To protect your energy, the teachings whisper, is first to recognize what steals it. Not merely outer noise, but the subtle thieves within grasping, aversion, comparison, the endless narratives we replay in the theater of thought. Energy, in the Buddhist view, is not merely physical vitality, but the quality of awareness we carry. It is the radiance of the mind when not clouded by craving or clinging. And so, to protect it is to guard the gates of the senses, not by shutting them, but by watching them with the eye of discernment. A sound arises. Is it necessary to follow it? A word stings. Is it necessary to reply? An opportunity gleams. Is it necessary to chase it? In the pause between impulse and action lies the sacred ground of stillness. It is here we begin to choose, rather than be chosen by habit. There was a time when forests were our temples, when monks and nuns wandered barefoot, not to run from life, but to see it clearly. They understood that true rest is not found in the absence of work, but in the absence of inner conflict. You may not be a monastic, but the same silence awaits you in the way you sip tea without the weight of multitasking, in the way you listen without preparing your next reply, in the way you allow yourself to simply sit without needing to improve, impress, or escape. These are not idle moments. They are gates. Buddhist teachings do not instruct you to abandon responsibility, but to abandon reactivity. In this shift, there is great power. You stop bleeding energy into stories of should have been, might be, and what if. You become a steward of the present, and in doing so, reclaim vast reserves of quiet strength. You stop burning your inner forest to chase distant fires. You return. To protect your energy also means to be discerning with who and what you allow into your sacred space. Compassion does not mean boundarylessness. Love is not exhaustion. In fact, the deeper your clarity, the more your boundaries arise not from fear, but from wisdom. Just as a lamp shines best when its oil is protected, so too does your spirit shine when guarded not with walls, but with presence. When you begin to see your life as a vessel for the Dharma, you understand the importance of protecting what fuels your light. The Dhammapada speaks of the fool who speaks endlessly and the wise one who is silent in understanding. It is not always necessary to offer your opinion, to correct, to win, to prove. Sometimes the highest offering is non-participation in chaos. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is to smile gently and walk away. Sometimes the most courageous thing is to rest. In a world that celebrates the loud, the fast, the relentless, you may appear strange when you choose stillness. You may be misunderstood. Let them. The teachings remind us that perception is conditioned. Others see not you, but their version of you filtered through their own suffering. Do not fight to be understood. Instead, strive to understand the nature of perception itself. That is where your energy is best spent. When you sit in meditation, you practice not escape, but return. You observe the currents of thought, the flickers of memory, the pull of desire, and you do not follow. not because you are numb, but because you are awake. You begin to sense the difference between effort and alignment, between reaction and response, between noise and truth. And slowly, the mind, like a stirred pond, begins to settle. What was murky becomes clear. The moon of insight shines upon the waters of awareness. Even in daily life, this clarity can remain. Washing dishes becomes a ritual of cleansing, not just plates but mind. Walking becomes a way of anchoring presence in each step. Speaking becomes sacred when words are chosen not to impress, but to express what is true and kind. These are not mere lifestyle changes. They are shifts in being. They are how you protect your energy without needing to withdraw from life. They are how you live the Dharma, not read it. When you feel depleted, return to the breath, not just as air, but as teacher. Notice how it does not rush. It does not cling. It comes. It goes. It nourishes without pride. It leaves without protest. Be like this. Protect your energy by being like the breath present, gentle, sufficient. And when emotions arise, as they will, do not label them as enemies. Anger, fear, sorrow, they are visitors, not residents. Greet them with awareness. Let them speak, but do not hand them the keys to your inner home. This is the art of spiritual hospitality, welcoming all, attached to none. This is how you remain rooted when others are swayed. This is how you become a refuge in a storming world. Protecting your energy also means releasing the burdens you carry unnecessarily. Guilt for things you cannot change. Shame from others' projections. The weight of roles you were never meant to perform. The teachings are clear. Lay down what is not yours. You cannot walk freely if you are carrying the past like a boulder. Forgiveness is not condoning harm. It is choosing not to carry its poison. Peace begins when you decide to stop reenacting pain within yourself. There is a difference between peace and passivity. Buddhist wisdom is not apathy. It is fierce clarity. It is the strength to walk away from drama, to say no with love, to rest when the world tells you to grind, to prioritize inner alignment over outer applause. In this way, you protect not only your energy but your essence. Look at a candle. It shines not by force, but by being what it is. So too, you protect your energy by ceasing to be what you are not. When you stop pretending, performing, proving, you begin to conserve the sacred fuel of your spirit. You begin to trust that who you are, in essence, is enough. This trust is revolutionary. This trust is rest. So ask yourself now, not with judgment, but with compassion, where do I leak my energy? What habits no longer serve me? What people, places, or patterns dim my light? And most importantly, what would it feel like to live from stillness, not stress? The answers will not come all at once, but in your asking, the journey begins. And the journey itself is the answer unfolding. Each breath, a step. Each pause, a sanctuary. Each act of awareness, a return to source. This is the way of the Dharma. This is the way of the awakened life. And in choosing to protect your energy, you are not withdrawing from the world, you are returning to it, as one who is whole, calm, and truly alive. Part 3. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost, walking with no map but clarity. There will come moments in every life when the path vanishes beneath your feet, when all directions blur, and the once familiar signs no longer make sense. You look around and feel unanchored, suspended in a fog of uncertainty. the mind rushes to find a solution, a direction, a rescue. But what if feeling lost is not a mistake? What if, instead, it is an invitation in the still hours of the early morning, when the world has not yet resumed its noise? The teachings of the Buddha return like a whisper in the dark. The path is not outside of you. It is not a destination to be reached or a plan to be completed. The path is the way you place your foot down in this moment, with presence, with care, with breath. Buddhist teachings do not hand you a map. They offer you a lamp and ask you to light it from within. When you feel lost, the first reminder is this: impermanence does not only mean the end of joy, it also means the end of confusion. No fog lasts forever. Even the darkest night carries within it the promise of dawn. In this way, to feel lost is to be in transition. Something is falling away, not as punishment, but as preparation. When the identity you once clung to dissolves, when the ambitions that once drove you lose their flavor, when relationships shift and foundations crack, you are being reformed by the fire of awakening. And fire always consumes before it reveals. To live without fear is not to be unshaken, but to walk while trembling and still remain open. The Buddha walked away from his palace, not knowing where the path would lead, but trusting that truth was more valuable than certainty. So too must we walk, not with maps, but with presence. The heart knows what the mind cannot see. To sit in stillness when the mind demands movement is an act of profound courage. In these moments of disorientation, return to the breath, not as technique, but as remembrance. Inhale, here you are. Exhale, here is the moment. Each breath is a thread, weaving the scattered pieces of your attention back together. When you feel lost, you are not truly lost. You are simply in the gap between who you were and who you are becoming. This space is sacred. Do not rush through it. Let it teach you. Buddhist wisdom tells us that clinging is suffering, and what we cling to most in times of uncertainty is control. We beg the future for answers. We rewrite the past in regret. But the present is the only place where the path reveals itself. Like a stone path that appears one step at a time beneath your feet. The way becomes clear only as you move slowly, deliberately, without demanding clarity from the distance. The lotus grows in the mud, not in spite of it, but because of it. Your confusion, your sadness, your silence, these are not signs of failure, but fertile ground. Let them soften you. Let them strip away the armor you wore for so long. When you are raw and open, you are closer to truth than ever. The teachings arise not in the absence of difficulty, but in how you meet it. When the voice inside says, "I don't know who I am anymore," smile gently. That is the voice of awakening. That is the crumbling of illusion. To transform your mind is to shift the question from, "What should I do?" to what is arising now. Let yourself feel without story. Let yourself weep without needing to explain. Let yourself be still without needing to progress. These are the quiet practices of those who are no longer seduced by noise. When you no longer rush to escape discomfort, you find that within it, there is gold. There is instruction. There is the Dharma. The Buddha spoke of the middle way, not too tight, not too loose. This applies not only to ethics or discipline, but to how we hold ourselves when lost. Do not grip yourself with judgment. Do not collapse into despair. Walk the middle way by staying with what is, without narrative, without urgency. This moment, yes. Even this is worthy of your attention. When the world does not reflect who you are, go inward. The temple is not in the mountains or the monastery. It is in your breath, your body, your bare presence. Sit with yourself as you would sit with a beloved friend who is hurting. Say nothing. Simply be. When the heart is met with compassion, it begins to open, not because it is fixed, but because it is seen. In your daily life, you may still go to work, still speak to others, still engage with the world, but something shifts. You move with less striving. You speak with more silence. You begin to see that everyone is lost in some way. And suddenly, your own wandering feels less shameful, more human. Buddhist wisdom does not elevate you above others. It roots you more deeply in the shared soil of existence. How to stay calm and positive in the midst of such uncertainty. Not by forcing yourself to be cheerful, but by resting in equanimity. Calm is not the absence of emotion. It is the spaciousness in which emotion arises. Positivity is not forced optimism. It is the quiet knowing that all things, even confusion, are passing clouds in the vast sky of being. The next time you feel lost, try this. Stop. Breathe. Look not outward, but inward. Ask not for a sign, but for stillness. Let the world continue its spinning. You just sit. Let thoughts come and go, like birds across the sky. And from that place of silence, you may begin to hear something subtler than thought, something older than fear, a pulse, a warmth, a knowing. This knowing is not intellectual. It is not verbal. It is presence itself. It is the part of you that has never been lost. The watcher, the listener, the one who is simply here. In the teachings, this is sometimes called the original face, the unborn nature, the Buddha within. It cannot be found because it was never lost. It cannot be named because it is what you are. So walk, even when you do not know the way. Sit, even when you feel restless. Trust, even when the map is blank. The path will reveal itself, not in your plans, but in your willingness to be here. Protect your energy not by hiding from the world, but by refusing to abandon your center. Find peace in chaos, not by silencing the storm, but by remembering you are not the storm. And when you arrive, if such a thing can be said, at a place of clarity, of groundedness, of ease, do not forget the lost ones. You are one of them. You may be again. Offer your stillness as shelter. Offer your presence as lamp. Offer your life as a walking Dharma. Not to preach, but to live with such gentleness that others feel safe to sit beside you in their own confusion. Part 4. Live without fear. Awakening the fearless heart through Buddhist wisdom. There is a silence beneath all silences, a space where fear has no root, a stillness untouched by the winds of the world. To live without fear is not to walk through life invincible, nor to banish all anxiety, but to awaken to a way of seeing in which fear loses its throne. In the teachings of the Buddha, fear is not an enemy to be vanquished, but a shadow to be understood. It arises from delusion, from ignorance of the nature of things, from forgetting the truth of impermanence, from grasping at what cannot be held, from resisting what must be faced. Fear clings to the illusion of permanence, the lie of control, the false promise of security in things that cannot last. And so, to live without fear is to dismantle these illusions, not by force, but by insight. When the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, Mara came, not as a monster with weapons, but as a voice whispering doubt, desire, and dread. Mara is not an external demon. Mara is the face of fear within us. Fear of failure, fear of death, a fear of rejection, fear of change. But the Buddha did not run. He did not fight. He simply said, "I see you, Mara," and stayed. This is the beginning of fearlessness, not the elimination of fear, but the clear seeing of it, the choosing not to obey it, the willingness to sit in its presence without collapsing. In the quiet discipline of mindfulness, fear begins to dissolve. When you bring gentle awareness to the rising tension in the body, to the shallow breath, to the tightness in the chest, you begin to meet fear, not as foe, but as teacher. Fear shows us where we are clinging. Fear points to the identities we are protecting, the outcomes we are demanding, the stories we are telling ourselves about what must happen. And when you see through these stories, even for a breath, you begin to touch what lies beyond them, a spaciousness, a freedom that cannot be shaken. To live without fear is to understand that nothing, not even death, is to be feared. Death is not the opposite of life. It is a part of it. The Buddha taught that all compounded things must dissolve. To fear death is to fear nature itself. But the one who sees clearly does not mourn the leaf for falling. He sees the falling as part of the cycle. He sees the seed beneath the soil, the quiet birth beneath the loud decay. In this seeing, there is peace. Fear thrives in the future. It feeds on the unknown, but the present moment is always safe, even when circumstances are not. When you return to this breath, this step, this sound, you step out of fear's domain. Fear cannot live in presence. It depends on imagination. It is the ghost of what might be, never what is. And so, to stay calm and positive in a world that stirs panic, return to the now. Feel the breath. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the life that is here, undiminished. The teachings tell us that fear is rooted in attachment. We fear because we love. We fear because we care. But love, twisted by clinging, becomes possessiveness. Care poisoned by control becomes obsession. The path is not to stop loving, but to love without grasping, to hold with open hands, to give without demand. This is true power. This is living without fear. In everyday life, fear shows itself in small ways, in hesitation to speak our truth, in the way we avoid silence, in our compulsion to fill every moment with noise or distraction, fear of not being enough, fear of being seen, fear of not being seen. But when we sit with these fears, when we name them without judgment, something begins to shift. They loosen. They dissolve. They lose their grip. The mind that sees clearly does not need to fight what it understands. The fearless heart is not hardened. It is softened by truth. It does not resist suffering, but embraces it with eyes wide open. It says yes to life in all its forms. It does not need to be safe to be at peace. It does not need certainty to rest. This heart walks into the unknown not because it knows what will happen, but because it trusts that whatever arises can be met with awareness, with presence, with compassion. Buddhist teachings remind us that fear often masks itself. It wears the face of anger, of control, of perfectionism. But underneath these strategies is a tender heart, a vulnerable being who longs to be safe, to be loved, to be enough. When we meet ourselves with the compassion the Buddha offered to all beings, that heart begins to open. Fear loses its fuel. We stop trying to become and begin to be. Even in the face of real danger, the awakened one remains calm, because clarity replaces panic. Because reaction is replaced by wisdom. To live without fear does not mean we do not act. It means we act from presence, not from habit. We respond from clarity, not compulsion. And in this, even chaos can become an ally. To transform your mind is to see fear as impermanent, as empty, as conditioned. It arises. It passes. You are not your fear. You are the awareness in which fear appears and disappears. The sky is not harmed by the clouds. You are not harmed by the weather of the mind. When fear is seen clearly, it cannot control you. It may still arise, but it will not steer the ship. Live without fear by grounding yourself in the truth of interbeing. You are not alone. You never were. Every being walks with some version of fear. And in this recognition, compassion grows. You begin to see fear not as enemy, but as the doorway to connection. When you stop judging yourself for being afraid, you stop judging others for the same. This is how the world begins to heal, one breath of acceptance at a time. To protect your energy is to refuse the endless demands of fear-based living. You do not need to be constantly achieving, impressing, defending. You do not need to prove your worth. You are already whole. The Dharma does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to remember who you are beneath the layers of conditioning. You are not the mask. You are not the name. You are not the title, the role, the story. You are the quiet space that watches it all. And in that space, fear cannot survive. It burns itself out like a match in the wind. What remains is peace. What remains is you. This is the way of the fearless heart. This is the path walked not with armor, but with clarity. And though the world may swirl around you, though the winds of change may howl, you remain rooted, grounded, vast. Not because you are untouched by life, but because you have touched life so deeply that nothing can shake your knowing. This is what it means to live without fear. To walk, step by step, into the mystery, with eyes open, with breath steady, with heart wide, not seeking safety, but embodying truth, not avoiding pain, but meeting it with love. This is the freedom the Buddha pointed to, not in some distant heaven, but here, now, within the quiet courage of your own being. Part 5. Find peace in chaos, the art of inner stability through Buddhist teachings. There are moments when the world feels as if it is spinning too fast, when events arrive without warning, when voices overlap, demands pile up, and the mind struggles to keep its footing. Chaos does not always announce itself with disaster. Often it arrives quietly, disguised as busyness, as constant stimulation, as the subtle pressure to always respond, always react, always be somewhere else than where you are. In such times, the ancient Buddhist teachings do not urge you to escape the storm, but to discover the unmoving center within it. The Buddha lived in a world no less uncertain than ours. Kingdoms rose and fell. Illness swept through villages. Loss and grief were woven into daily life. Yet the teachings that emerged from that era speak with timeless clarity. Peace, they tell us, is not the absence of chaos. Peace is the relationship you cultivate with it. When the outer world becomes turbulent, the invitation is not to tighten your grip, but to soften your awareness. To find peace in chaos is to understand the nature of the mind. The mind, when left unobserved, becomes like a crowded marketplace. Thoughts shout over one another. Emotions demand immediate action. Fears present themselves as urgent truths. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that we do not have to live inside this noise. We can step back, not by suppressing the mind, but by seeing it clearly. Awareness creates space. Space creates choice. Choice creates peace. One of the deepest Buddhist lessons for anxiety is the recognition that much of our suffering comes not from what is happening, but from our resistance to it. We say this should not be happening. I cannot handle this. This must stop. And in that resistance, tension multiplies. But when the mind gently bows to reality, when it says this is what is here now, something unexpected occurs. The body exhales. The nervous system settles. The storm does not disappear, but you are no longer drowning in it. In the teachings, this is called equanimity, not indifference, not numbness, but a steady presence that remains balanced amid gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. Equanimity is the mountain that does not flee the weather. It allows the rain, the sun, the snow, knowing none of them define its essence. When you cultivate this quality, chaos loses its power to uproot you. In daily life, chaos often enters through the senses. Endless news cycles, constant notifications, the emotional turbulence of others. To protect your energy, you must learn to meet the world without absorbing everything it throws at you. This does not mean closing your heart. It means opening it wisely. You can care without carrying. You can listen without losing yourself. You can engage without being consumed. The Buddha taught mindfulness not as a technique, but as a way of living. When you wash your hands, know you are washing your hands. When you speak, know you are speaking. When you feel overwhelmed, know that overwhelm is present. This simple knowing is powerful. It interrupts the momentum of chaos. It brings you back to the only place where peace has ever existed, this moment. How to stay calm and positive when everything feels unstable is not a question answered by affirmations, but by insight. Calm is not something you force onto the mind. It arises naturally when the mind stops fighting what is. Positivity is not pretending everything is fine. It is the quiet confidence that whatever arises can be met with awareness and compassion. This confidence grows not from control, but from trust in your capacity to be present. Buddhism for beginners often emphasizes the breath because the breath is always available. When chaos surges, return to it, not to escape, but to anchor. Each inhale reminds you that life is flowing through you. Each exhale reminds you that you can let go. The breath does not panic. It does not rush ahead. It stays. Let it teach you. The mind that seeks peace by arranging the world will never rest. There will always be another problem, another demand, another uncertainty. But the mind that seeks peace by understanding itself becomes unshakable. This is the radical promise of Buddhist teachings. You do not need the world to be different to be at peace. You need only to see clearly. When you feel pulled in many directions, remember this Buddhist reminder: when you feel lost, you can only take one step at a time. The present moment is not asking you to solve your entire life. It is asking you to be here, fully, honestly, without running. When you give yourself to this moment, the mind stops fragmenting. Wholeness returns. There is a story of a monk asked how he remained so calm amid hardship. He replied that when he walked, he walked. When he ate, he ate. When he rested, he rested. This simplicity is not naive. It is profound. It is the art of not dividing yourself against yourself. Chaos thrives on fragmentation. Peace thrives on presence. To live without fear in a chaotic world is to accept uncertainty as the nature of existence. Fear arises when we demand guarantees. But life offers none. The Buddha did not promise safety. He offered freedom. Freedom from the compulsive need to know, to control, to predict. In this freedom, peace is not fragile. It does not depend on circumstances. It lives in your way of seeing. As you walk through your days, you will still encounter noise, conflict, unpredictability, but something within you can remain untouched. A quiet center, a stable ground. This is not something you acquire. It is something you remember. It has always been there, waiting beneath the turbulence of thought. If these reflections have brought a sense of grounding, if they have helped you find even a small island of calm within your own chaos, allow the circle of listening to widen by subscribing, by liking, by sharing. You help these Buddhist teachings reach others who may be standing in the middle of their own storms, searching for stillness. Peace is not far away. It is not hidden. It is here, now, in the simple act of being present with what is. And as you learn to rest in that presence, chaos loses its grip, and life, exactly as it is, becomes the path. Part 6. Transform your mind, the Buddhist path to inner freedom. The world you experience is not solely the world as it is, but the world as your mind filters it. Every sound, every face, every moment that passes before your eyes is shaped by perception, memory, to habit, craving, and fear. And so, to transform your life, you do not first change your surroundings, you transform your mind. The teachings of the Buddha begin here, at the very root of suffering, where mind meets moment and reactivity becomes the soil from which all pain or peace grows. To transform your mind is not to become someone else. It is to uncover what has always been true beneath the noise of conditioning, like clouds parting to reveal the sky that was never gone. The process of transformation is one of remembering the clarity that existed before opinion, before judgment, before the mind divided the world into like and dislike, gain and loss, self and other. In this ancient remembering, the mind begins to settle. The waters stirred by craving and aversion begin to still, and only then can one begin to see the true nature of things. The Buddha did not offer transformation as something external. He taught that liberation is found not by rearranging circumstances, but by changing the relationship we have to them. A thought arises, it is not you. A feeling moves through the body, it is not you. A desire pulses in the heart, it is not you. You are the awareness in which all of these arise and dissolve. When the mind ceases to identify with its contents, when it stops clinging to the narratives it spins, then freedom is no longer a distant goal. It becomes the very nature of your seeing. But this path is not abstract. It begins in the ordinary, in the unnoticed. When you eat, do you taste fully? Or are you planning the next hour, reliving the last conflict? When you listen to someone speak, are you truly receiving their words? Or preparing your reply, framing your defense, nursing your conclusions? The untrained mind lives in reaction. The transformed mind lives in presence. And from presence, wisdom begins to emerge, not learned from books, but revealed in silence. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is like a field. If you plant seeds of mindfulness, of compassion, of right view, the harvest will be peace. But if you water seeds of greed, anger, and delusion, suffering will grow. The soil does not judge, it grows what you plant. And so the work is gentle, but persistent, moment by moment, seed by seed. When irritation arises, can you name it without feeding it? When fear visits, can you see it clearly without becoming it? Each such moment is a turning of the soil. Each such awareness, a new season. The practice of transforming the mind is not about becoming passive. It is about becoming powerful in the truest sense. The one who sees clearly is not manipulated by impulse, not enslaved by desire, not clouded by hatred. She walks through the world with an inner freedom that nothing can take. She meets insult with silence. She meets uncertainty with breath. She meets change with grace. This is not detachment in the sense of coldness. It is detachment in the sense of inner spaciousness, of no longer being pulled in every direction by the winds of the world. To protect your energy, you must first become intimate with your inner landscape. What thoughts drain you? What stories do you repeat that keep your suffering alive? The mind, unchecked, will rehearse pain until it becomes your identity. But you are not your pain. You are the witness of it. When this becomes not just a belief, but a lived truth, something remarkable happens. You no longer fear emotion. You do not suppress it, nor do you indulge it. You simply meet it, see it, breathe with it, and in that meeting, the energy of transformation begins to stir. Transforming the mind is not about controlling thoughts. It is about relating to them differently. Thoughts will arise, some beautiful, some dark, some inspiring, some terrifying. Let them come. Let them go. You are not the thinker. You are the space in which thinking happens. This is the essence of Buddhist meditation, not to fight the mind, but to see it with such clarity that its power to disturb you fades. Like watching a storm through the window, you are no longer wet. When life becomes difficult, the untrained mind says, "This is wrong. This should not be." But the transformed mind says, "This is here. What now?" That shift, from resistance to presence, from reaction to inquiry, is the gateway to peace. Chaos outside does not have to mean chaos within. When the mind is calm, the world reflects that calm, even in the midst of disorder. To live without fear, one must transform the roots of fear, attachment, and aversion. We fear losing what we love. We fear getting what we hate. But when love becomes spacious, when aversion is met with wisdom, fear begins to loosen. Not because life is predictable, but because you are no longer defined by its unpredictability. Your peace is no longer hostage to outcomes. How do you begin this transformation? Not by grand vows or heroic effort, but by noticing. Notice when you tighten. Notice when you rush. Notice when you grasp. And in that noticing, breathe, soften, return, over and over again. To return. The return is the practice. The return is the transformation. This is not a path of perfection, but of presence. In the old stories, even the greatest masters began as wanderers. The mind resists change. It clings to habit. But habit is not destiny. You can train the mind as surely as a musician trains the hand. With patience, with practice, with love. Each time you choose presence over distraction. Each time you choose compassion over judgment. Each time you choose silence over reactivity. You reshape the very fabric of your consciousness. And so, let your life become the ground of transformation. Let your relationships be the mirror. Let your suffering be the teacher. Let your breath be the guide. You need not retreat from the world to walk this path. It is walked right here, in traffic, in conversation, in sorrow, in joy. Every moment is the field. Every choice, a seed. This is how you transform your mind, not in one sweeping gesture, but in 1,000 quiet turnings. And as the mind transforms, so does the heart. And as the heart opens, so does the world. The suffering around you does not vanish, but you meet it differently. You no longer add to it. You become a balm, a stillness, a presence. You become someone in whom others can rest. And that, too, is the fruit of transformation. If these words have touched even a small corner of your heart, if they have stirred something ancient within you, we invite you, gently, with presence, to subscribe, to like, to share, not out of compulsion, but as an offering, a continuation of the path, a light passed from hand to hand. And may this light, this Dharma, illuminate the path before you, as you walk step by step, not towards something, but into the fullness of what you already are. Part 7. Buddhist Lessons for Anxiety. Finding ground in the groundless. There are times when the breath shortens and the chest tightens for reasons we cannot name. Times when the heart beats faster, not from danger but from thought alone. When the mind spins webs so tangled that the body believes it is already ensnared. Anxiety is not a stranger to the human experience. It is an old companion of the untrained mind. A shadow born from imagining a future that has not yet arrived. Buddhist wisdom does not deny the existence of anxiety, nor does it shame the anxious heart. Instead, it offers a way to turn toward it, to befriend it, to understand it so deeply that its hold begins to loosen, not through force, but through seeing. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving and aversion, from clinging to what we want and pushing away what we fear. Anxiety often emerges in the space between wanting something to happen and fearing that it won't, or fearing something will happen and trying desperately to prevent it. But the future is not a place we can touch. It exists only in thought. And yet the body reacts as if it were here. The pulse quickens. The breath grows shallow. The shoulders rise. The stomach clenches. In these moments, the teachings invite us to pause, not to fix or analyze, but simply to feel, to bring kind attention to what is here, to say gently, this is anxiety. This is how it feels, and I am here with it. Anxiety feeds on resistance. The more we push it away, the more power it gains, like a child crying louder when ignored. Anxiety intensifies when we try to silence it. But when we offer it the space to be seen, without judgment, something shifts. Awareness itself becomes the container. The very act of naming what is present creates distance between the awareness and the experience. You are not the anxiety. You are the one witnessing it, the one who breathes, the one who remains. To protect your energy is to recognize when your mind is spiraling into what-if scenarios. The teachings are clear. Worry is not preparation. Fear is not foresight. The mind often believes that rehearsing disaster will somehow prevent it. But this is not wisdom. It is exhaustion. The future cannot be known. But this breath, this moment, this sensation in the body, this can be known. And this knowing is where freedom begins. In Buddhist practice, the body is not an enemy to be transcended, but a teacher to be listened to. When anxiety arises, the invitation is to return to the body. Feel the soles of the feet on the ground. Notice the breath, not to control it, but to witness it. Allow the belly to soften. Let the jaw unclench. The body holds the present. The mind runs to the future. To find peace in chaos, return to the ground beneath your feet. Anxiety often brings with it a sense of urgency. Do something. Fix this. escape. But the teachings remind us, not every feeling requires a reaction. You can feel anxiety and not act on it. You can allow the wave to rise and fall, knowing that no wave lasts forever. This is not passivity, it is power. The power of presence, the power of restraint, the power of awareness that watches without being swept away. To live without fear is not to never feel it, but to refuse to be ruled by it. Fear may arise. Anxiety may knock on the door, but you do not have to invite them in for tea. You do not have to believe everything they say. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often begin with the breath, not because the breath is magic, but because it is always now. Anxiety lives in tomorrow. The breath lives in today. And the more you dwell in today, the less space anxiety has to grow. The mind that transforms is not a mind without emotion. It is a mind that holds emotion in the spaciousness of clarity. When anxiety whispers of worst-case scenarios, ask gently, is this happening now? What is true in this moment? Return to what is real. The texture of your clothing, the sound of birds outside the window, the warmth of your hands. These small details tether you to the here and now. And the here and now is always manageable. Buddhist teachings do not offer escape from the human condition. They offer intimacy with it. To feel anxiety and not flee is to step into the heart of practice. It is to walk through the fire with eyes open, to let the flames purify without destroying. In the midst of anxiety, ask, what am I believing right now? Whose voice am I listening to? What story am I spinning? Then rest not in answers, but in awareness. Even the Buddha faced Mara, the personification of all fear and confusion. Mara visited again and again, even after enlightenment. But each time, the Buddha would acknowledge him with quiet dignity. I see you, Mara. And Mara would retreat. The lesson is not that anxiety will never return. It is that it loses its grip when it is seen. The mind that sees clearly becomes a refuge not only for itself but for others. To stay calm and positive amid inner storms is not a performance. It is a discipline, a returning, over and over again. Returning to the body, to the breath, to the truth of this moment. Anxiety says, I can't. Awareness replies, you already are. The difference between suffering and freedom is often that small. In daily life, small acts become sacred ground. Drinking tea becomes meditation. Walking to the store becomes practice. Speaking with honesty becomes liberation. Each time you meet anxiety with compassion, each time you refrain from adding fuel to its fire, you transform your mind. You become more spacious. You become less reactive. You become more rooted in what is real. Protect your energy, not by avoiding life, but by showing up to it fully. Let anxiety come. Let it go. Hold it like a passing storm. And when it passes, as all storms do, notice the sky that remains, clear, vast, unshaken. This is the fruit of the path. This is the teaching not in words but in being. To sit in the center of uncertainty with a quiet heart, to smile at your own trembling, to bow to the waves without being swept away. This is how you carry the Dharma. This is how the Dharma carries you. Part 8. Buddhist Teachings, the silent power of letting go. There is a moment in every life when the hand grows tired of holding, when the heart grows weary from clinging to what is no longer alive, and the mind aches from spinning the same threadbare stories of resistance. We hold on because we are afraid to fall, because we confuse attachment with love, because we think control will keep us safe. But the teachings of the Buddha point us in another direction. They do not tell us to abandon life, but to meet it with open hands. They whisper softly that what you let go of does not diminish you, it frees you. Letting go is not weakness. It is clarity. It is not apathy. It is peace beyond preference. To let go is not to cast away, but to release the grip of craving, the tension of control, the illusions we weave to feel secure in a world that never stays still. Every leaf falls. Every wave dissolves. Every breath ends. This is not tragedy, it is truth. And when we resist truth, we suffer. The Buddha saw this clearly. He saw that all conditioned things are impermanent. That suffering arises when we cling to what changes. And that liberation is found not in holding tighter, but in loosening our grasp. There is a story told of a man hanging from a cliff, clutching a vine with both hands. Below him, a dark abyss. Above him, he cannot climb. A mouse begins to gnaw at the vine. In that moment, he sees a single wild strawberry growing beside him. He picks it. He eats it. It is the sweetest thing he has ever tasted. This is the way of letting go, not of abandoning life, but of entering it fully, even in the face of uncertainty, even in the shadow of impermanence. To let go is to be present. In the quiet of meditation, the practice is simple. Thoughts arise, and you let them go. Sensations come, and you watch them pass. Emotions surge, and you breathe with them, then release. Again and again, you practice not grasping, and slowly, the mind begins to loosen. The knots unravel. The noise softens. You begin to discover a spaciousness behind all experience, a space that does not cling, does not resist, does not chase. This space is who you are when you stop holding. Buddhist teachings remind us that clinging creates identity. I am the one who was hurt. I am the one who failed. I am the one who must succeed. But who are you without your story? Without your masks? Without your past dragging behind you like a heavy cloak? The one who lets go steps into a kind of emptiness, not a void, but a freedom from false weight. This is the fertile emptiness from which truth can grow. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means no longer allowing what has passed to dictate the terms of your presence. The pain may still visit, the memory may still knock, but your heart remains open, unshaken. You bow to what was. You honor it, and then you return to now. In daily life, we hold on in subtle ways. We hold on to expectations of others and suffer when they fail to fulfill them. We hold on to self-images and suffer when reality cracks them. We hold on to the need to be understood and suffer when others do not see us clearly. But when you let go of needing people to be different, needing outcomes to align, needing yourself to be perfect, peace enters like a breeze through an open window, not because the world has changed, but because you have. To protect your energy, let go of the inner argument with reality. Stop fighting what is. Stop replaying conversations. Stop rehearsing what-ifs. These are not acts of care. They are habits of mind untrained. The Dharma teaches that we suffer not because of life's difficulty, but because of the mind's refusal to release its grip on how it thinks things should be. Let go of the should. Let go of the must. Let go of the belief that peace lies anywhere other than here. When fear arises, it often says, if I let go, I will lose. But Buddhist wisdom replies, what you lose was never yours. And what is truly yours cannot be taken. Love that depends on control is not love. Security that depends on predictability is not peace. You can let go and still love. you can release and still care. In fact, it is only through release that real love can breathe, that real compassion can flow. There is a freedom in not needing to be right, in not needing to win, in not needing to be heard. The ego thrives on these needs, but the heart, the awakened heart, seeks only to understand, to be at peace. And this peace is born in surrender, not defeat, but the wisdom of knowing when to stop pushing, when to stop chasing, when to sit in silence and trust the unfolding. Letting go is not a single act. It is a path, a muscle that grows stronger with practice. You may let go in the morning and find yourself grasping again by evening. That is not failure. That is the path. Each time you notice, each time you soften, each time you return, you deepen your freedom. Live without fear by releasing the illusion that you must control everything to be safe. The truth is, you never controlled anything, not the past, not the future, not others' thoughts. But you can always choose your relationship to this moment. And in that choice lies your power. To find peace in chaos, begin with what you can release right now. Perhaps a resentment, perhaps a deadline not met, perhaps an old dream, perhaps a belief about yourself that no longer serves. Let it go, not with anger, but with reverence, with the understanding that release is an act of love. Transform your mind by loosening its grip. Buddhist teachings are not just philosophy, they are practice. When you walk, walk. Let go of rushing. When you eat, eat. Let go of distraction. When you feel sadness, let it be there without needing it to go away. Every moment is an opportunity to unclench, to breathe, to open. The lotus grows in the mud. Its beauty comes not from fleeing the earth, but from rising through it. So too, your liberation grows from the very moments you thought were traps. They are not traps. They are gates. And the key to those gates is letting go. This is the silent power of release. It changes nothing outwardly, but inwardly. It shifts the axis of your life. You move from grasping to resting, from controlling to trusting, from reacting to simply being. And in that being, you are no longer bound. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer afraid. Part 9. How to stay calm and positive, walking the middle path in daily life. There is a quiet strength found in those who move through life like water, soft yet unyielding, yielding yet firm, who meet trouble not with panic but with presence, who answer chaos not with resistance but with calm. The Buddha spoke of such a way, not as something mystical or distant, but as a middle path, one that avoids the extremes of indulgence and denial, a way that does not collapse under joy, nor sink beneath sorrow. This path is not built upon pretending everything is well, nor upon blind optimism. It is a path of clarity, of balance, of inner steadiness. It is how one learns, in the shifting sands of life, to stay calm and positive without being naive, without closing the eyes to suffering, and without losing heart. The world offers many reasons to lose center. Expectations unmet, relationships strained, health uncertain, finances wavering, time slipping. The mind, conditioned by habit, begins to fixate on what went wrong, on what might happen, on how others should behave. From these seeds grow storms, but the teachings offer a different soil. They invite you to uproot the mind from the drama of comparison, from the cycle of blame and defense, and instead, to cultivate presence. Presence does not remove the waves, but it teaches you how to surf. To stay calm is to return, again and again, to the body, not to the story the mind spins, but to the truth the body tells. Inhale, exhale. Feel the breath as it is, not as it should be. Feel the feet on the ground. Notice the shoulders. Are they tense? Notice the jaw. Is it clenched? The body does not lie. It is always now. And calm, true calm, arises when you choose to remain in now, even when the mind demands escape. Positivity in Buddhism is not a mood but a wisdom. It is not the refusal to see suffering, but the refusal to be defined by it. A positive mind in Buddhist terms is one grounded in right view. It sees clearly the impermanence of all things, the interdependence of life, the emptiness of fixed identity. Such a mind is not shaken by praise or blame, by gain or loss, for it knows that all things pass. The joy it carries is not one of excitement, but of equanimity, a joy that holds sorrow without collapsing, a smile that remains even through tears. To be calm does not mean to be indifferent. It means you respond instead of react. When insulted, you pause. When confused, you breathe. When hurt, you listen. The practice is not to suppress feeling, but to give it space, to allow it to unfold without being hijacked by it. This inner spaciousness is cultivated in silence, in stillness, in the slow attention to small things, washing a bowl, tying a shoe, listening to the wind. Every act becomes a doorway back to center. The mind that is always seeking what's next cannot be calm. It is pulled by craving, pushed by fear. But the mind that rests in what is begins to soften. Begin each day, not with demands, but with awareness. Before speaking, breathe. Before reacting, feel. Before concluding, observe. These are not techniques, they are invitations. Each moment offers a choice, to be swept away, or to return. There will be days when staying calm seems impossible, when the news is heavy, when the body is tired, when the heart aches. On those days, do not try to be positive. Be honest. Sit with your difficulty as you would with a dear friend. Offer it presence. Say, "This is what's here," and stay. Do not rush to fix. Do not rush to change. Calm arises not from forcing peace, but from allowing what is. To protect your energy is to notice what drains you, not only people or tasks, but also the thoughts you choose to believe. The constant inner criticism, the compulsive worry, the narrative of not enough. Each of these pulls you from presence. When you notice them, smile gently and return to the breath. No need to fight the thought. Simply don't feed it. Return to what is alive now. The breath, the body, the moment. In this way, you learn to live without fear, not by denying the world's sharp edges, but by sharpening your awareness. Fear shrinks the present. It creates illusions. But awareness dissolves illusion. It reminds you, you are here. You are breathing. And in this breath, nothing is lacking. To stay calm and positive is to trust the path, not as a destination, but as a way of walking. You walk slowly, steadily, aware of each step. When the ground is uneven, you walk more carefully. When it is smooth, you walk with ease. Either way, you walk. This trust is not blind faith. It is born of seeing that life moves in cycles, that nothing lasts, that every experience is a teacher. Even this, Let your words be few. Let your gaze be soft. Let your actions arise not from urgency, but from insight. Speak when your words nourish. Act when your action serves. Rest when rest is needed. This is not laziness, it is wisdom. The middle path honors both effort and ease. It knows when to engage and when to release. The world will continue as it is. Storms will come. People will misunderstand. Plans will unravel. But your practice is not to control the world. It is to become the one who does not lose herself when the winds rise. To be the eye in the hurricane. To be the silence under the noise. In such stillness, positivity blooms, not as a surface mask, but as a deep-rooted joy. A joy that exists not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally aligned with what is true. This joy is not loud. It is not dazzling. It is subtle, steady, unshakable. It does not need reason. It simply is. And so, walk gently, listen deeply, speak mindfully, and when you forget, return. Again and again. Return. This is the path. This is the practice. This is the peace that no one can take from you. Part 10. Buddhism for Beginners. The first steps toward inner clarity. There is a beginning to every path. Though the true path has no end, there is a first breath of awareness, a first glimpse of stillness, a first soft awakening in the heart that says, something deeper must be possible. It does not always arrive with ceremony. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the exhaustion of a sleepless night, in the ache after loss, in the hush that follows a storm of emotions. Buddhism for Beginners is not an entry into belief, but an invitation into direct experience. Not to worship the Buddha, but to walk the path he walked. Not to add new layers of identity, but to begin peeling them away, until only what is essential remains. To begin is to pause. In a world of motion, this alone is revolutionary. The beginner pauses not to gather facts, but to listen to the breath, to the body, to the background hum of thoughts that often go unnoticed. And in this listening, a space opens. In that space, something ancient awakens, a knowing not born of books or teachings, but of truth resonating in the marrow. The first step is not forward, but inward. The Buddha's first teaching was simple, yet profound. There is suffering. It is not a flaw, not a punishment, not a mistake. It is a part of life. Birth is suffering. Aging is suffering. Illness and death are suffering. Not getting what one wants is suffering. Losing what one loves is suffering. And yet, even in acknowledging this, the teaching carries no despair. It is merely the beginning of honesty. The beginner does not yet need to understand all the causes, only to bow before what is real, to say, yes, I suffer. Yes, I struggle. And yes, I want to understand why. The second truth follows. Suffering has a cause. It is not random. It arises from clinging, from grasping, from the craving for things to be other than they are. We crave pleasure and fear pain. We cling to identity, to plans, to opinions, to control. The beginner begins to notice this clinging, not with shame, but with curiosity, to see the tightening in the chest when something is threatened, to feel the surge of anger when reality fails to obey our will. These are not signs of failure. They are invitations to wakefulness. The third truth offers hope. Suffering can end. There is a way out, not through denial, but through understanding, not through escape, but through presence. The way is subtle. It does not promise riches or power or eternal comfort. It promises clarity. It promises freedom, not from life, but within life. And so the beginner begins, often, clumsily, sometimes forgetting, sometimes resisting, but the direction is clear. The Eightfold Path unfolds, not as commandments, but as guidelines for living with integrity and awareness. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are not separate steps, but facets of a single jewel. They illuminate life from every angle. To protect your energy as a beginner is to begin saying no to habits that harm, to notice when the mind seeks stimulation instead of stillness, when the mouth speaks to be heard rather than to be kind, when the body is driven by urgency instead of rhythm. Energy leaks through unconsciousness. It is preserved through mindfulness. The breath becomes the anchor. It is always here. It costs nothing. It demands nothing. But it offers everything. Each breath is a teacher. It arrives without clinging. It departs without protest. It mirrors impermanence. It grounds attention. In the early days of practice, returning to the breath again and again may feel like nothing. But over time, the breath reveals its power. It is the gateway to now. Buddhist teachings do not ask the beginner to believe. They ask you to see the impermanence of all things. See the rising and falling of sensation. See how thought arises unbidden, how emotions swell and fade. See the suffering caused by resistance, and the peace born of acceptance. Begin here, not in theory, but in the felt truth of your own experience. To stay calm and positive as a beginner is not to pretend that everything is okay. It is to sit in the middle of what is, without needing it to be different. It is to cultivate equanimity, the steady heart that does not grasp at joy, nor recoil from sorrow. This heart does not close. It remains open, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The beginner may be tempted to rush to attain enlightenment, to become wise, to escape the messiness of being human. But the path cannot be rushed. Enlightenment is not a goal. It is a deepening of presence, a quiet seeing into the nature of reality. One moment at a time. Do not seek the end of the path. Seek to walk it well. Each step in awareness is already the destination. You will forget. You will react. You will cling. This is not failure. This is practice. The beginner falls and rises again. Each fall teaches. Each rising strengthens. The path is not straight. It spirals. It circles. It doubles back. But if you continue, you will begin to see the shifts, the longer pause before reacting, the gentler tone in your own mind, the way silence begins to feel nourishing instead of empty. Live without fear, not by denying it, but by facing it with presence. Fear arises. You see it. You name it. You do not feed it. You stay. The beginner learns not to run from discomfort. You sit with the tightness. You breathe into the ache. And in staying, something opens. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily, like a flower unfolding in the sun. To find peace in chaos, begin with what is within your reach. Your breath, your posture, your intention. You cannot control the world, but you can train your response to it. You can meet anger with patience, noise with silence, conflict with clarity. These are not small things. These are how peace begins. Transform your mind, not by replacing every negative thought, but by seeing through it. Is it true? Is it useful? Is it kind? Ask. Watch. Return. Again and again. Return. This is the work. This is the path. If you have walked with these words and felt even a moment of stillness, even a flicker of clarity, then the path has already begun. It does not require grand vows or distant monasteries. It begins in this moment, in this breath, in this decision to be present. And if you feel the quiet call to continue, if this path has touched something deep and wordless in you, then we invite you gently, mindfully, as a continuation of practice, to subscribe, to share, to carry these teachings forward, not for numbers, not for noise, but for the deep and patient flowering of truth. You are not behind. You are not late. You are here. And here is the perfect place to begin. Part 11. Protect your energy. The wisdom of compassionate boundaries. There is a silence inside you that has not been broken. Though the world has pulled at every corner of your mind, there is a clarity deeper than noise, deeper than the endless voices telling you who you should be, what you should chase, how much you should give. In the quiet stillness of Buddhist teachings, one learns not only how to open the heart, but also how to protect the flame that burns within it. To protect your energy is not selfishness. It is discernment. It is the wisdom to understand that presence is precious, that your inner peace is not to be bartered away for temporary validation, and that a clear mind and a steady heart are not resources to be spent carelessly, but to be guarded with loving awareness. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not merely from what we experience, but from how we relate to experience. When the mind is untrained, it clings to what depletes and resists what restores. It tries to please everyone, to fix everything, to keep all things in balance. But this effort, without wisdom, becomes exhaustion. And so the path invites a radical shift from doing for approval to being from presence, from responding out of habit to acting from awareness. To protect your energy is first to see what drains it. The constant reactivity, the addiction to noise, the endless cycle of explanation and justification, the mind that spins scenarios and replays conversations long after they have passed. Each of these pulls the thread of your attention away from now. Each of these depletes your life force, not because of their existence, but because of your engagement with them. The practice is not to run from the world, but to meet it with eyes open and heart clear. It is to stand in the midst of complexity and remain undisturbed at the root. There is deep compassion in saying no, in not offering what you do not have, in not giving out of guilt, but from fullness. The lotus does not bloom by exhausting itself for every passerby. It opens because it is rooted, because it draws nourishment from the depths, because it does not rush toward the sun. It allows the sun to arrive. So too must you learn to bloom from within, to give without depletion, to listen without absorbing. When others bring their pain, their stories, their chaos, you can hold them without becoming them. This is the teaching of equanimity, not coldness, but balance. You remain open, but not entangled. You care, but do not carry. You listen, but do not lose your center. This is not detachment as indifference. It is detachment as clarity. You see the suffering, you offer what you can, and you release what is not yours to hold. The teachings of the Buddha are filled with reminders of skillful means, how to speak, how to act, how to serve without self-loss. Right speech does not only mean speaking truth, it means speaking at the right time, with the right intention, and only when it benefits. So many words are spoken not to build bridges, but to fill space. So many actions are taken not from compassion, but from fear of being misunderstood. But the one who walks the path deeply learns to rest in silence, learns to let others have their stories, learns to protect their energy by not leaking it into argument, into defensiveness, into unnecessary striving. The body, too, teaches. Fatigue is a messenger. Tightness is a teacher. The ache that arises after too much giving without balance is not weakness. It is wisdom, knocking. Listen. Rest. Refill. You are not here to burn out for the world. You are here to awaken within it. And awakening requires care, patience, spaciousness. Protecting your energy is an act of devotion to the clarity that wants to be born through you. To stay calm and positive, especially in a world that thrives on urgency, you must remember what matters. You must choose slowness over speed, depth over breadth, presence over performance. Let others race. Let others chase. You walk slowly, mindfully. You sit when needed. You say little when little needs to be said. Your peace becomes your practice, and your practice becomes your gift. Live without fear of judgment. Others may not understand your boundaries. They may question your silence, your distance, your choice to step away from noise. Let them. The Buddha was misunderstood. The awakened ones are often seen as strange by those still entangled. But your path is not theirs to walk. Your task is not to be understood. It is to be whole. There is a quiet liberation in not answering every call, not responding to every opinion, not fixing every problem. You begin to conserve the sacred fire of your awareness. You begin to notice when your nervous system contracts, when your breath becomes shallow, and you choose, again and again, to return, to breathe, to soften, to rest in the spaciousness of being. Buddhist reminders, when you feel lost, will always guide you back to simplicity. What is here now? What is true? What is needed? Often, very little. Often, only awareness, only presence, only the willingness to be here without scattering your soul across every demand. Protecting your energy means returning to what is essential and letting the rest pass like clouds. To transform your mind, you must guard the gates of your senses. You must notice what you consume, not only food and media, but conversations, environments, thoughts. Some nourish, some deplete, some awaken, some distract. You do not need to judge, only to choose, only to notice. And in that noticing, you take your power back from all that has pulled you away from yourself. Let stillness be your sanctuary. Let silence be your strength. Let your boundaries be woven from love, not fear. The more you rest in this knowing, the more the world will rearrange itself, not to suit your preferences, but to reflect your clarity. And in that reflection, you will find the strength not to do more, but to be more whole, more true, more aligned. Protect your energy like you would protect a sacred flame on a windy night. Walk slowly. Shield it with both hands. Offer it only where it warms without burning out. And let your life become a quiet light in a world that forgets how to rest. You owe no one your depletion. You owe everyone your presence. And presence is born in the heart of stillness, in the breath that is unhurried, in the gaze that sees without grasping, in the soul that remembers its own depth before reaching for another. This is the wisdom of the path. This is the beginning of true compassion for self and for all beings. This is how you protect your energy, not from fear, but from love. Not to escape life, but to live it from your center, wide open, yet utterly whole. Part 12. Protect your energy, the wisdom of compassionate boundaries. And when the practice deepens, you begin to see that protecting your energy is not a retreat from love, it is the highest expression of it. You are no longer loving from compulsion, from the need to please, to be seen, to be accepted. You are loving from truth, from presence, from a well that has not been drained by overextension or the scattering of your inner light. The Buddha's compassion was vast, but it was not careless. He did not run after every person. He did not speak to prove. He spoke when the time was right, when the heart was open, when the listener was ready. And so must you learn the same discernment, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. You begin to move through life with a gentler rhythm. You stop saying yes when the body says no. You stop explaining to those committed to misunderstanding. You stop leaking your awareness into conflict that feeds on reaction. Your silence becomes luminous. Your presence becomes undemanding. You understand that to hold your energy sacred is to honor the path itself, to carry the Dharma not as a burden, but as a living light that glows from within, needing no display, no validation, no defense. Let your calm become your shield. Let your breath become your teacher. Let your simplicity become your way. In every encounter, ask not, "What must I prove?" but "What must I preserve?" When the world invites you to rush, slow down. When it urges you to speak, listen. When it tempts you to exhaust yourself in the name of duty, pause. Feel into your body. Sense into your center. Ask, does this nourish, or does it deplete? The beginner may say yes to everything, but the one who has ripened on the path learns the power of sacred no. The boundaries you set are not walls to keep others out. They are the structure within which love can thrive without distortion. You are not here to absorb the chaos of the world. You are here to meet the world with clarity. And clarity arises when energy is conserved, not squandered. When the heart is tended, not torn. When your inner space is no longer cluttered with the dust of other people's noise, you begin to hear again the quiet voice of knowing, the steady rhythm of presence, the ancient call of stillness that speaks not in words, but in the deep silence between them. Even the breath teaches this. It knows when to take in, when to release. It does not hold endlessly, nor does it give without return. This is the rhythm of nature, of life, of truth. To protect your energy is to live in alignment with this rhythm, to honor the wisdom of balance, the intelligence of enough. And so you walk differently now. You no longer enter every room with the weight of proving. You no longer stay in conversations that turn into mazes. You no longer sacrifice your inner weather to please the outer climate. You have learned that being available to everything is not presence, it is absence from the self. But when you dwell within, rooted and clear, even your silence becomes healing. Even your stillness becomes an offering. Protecting your energy is not a phase. It is a path, a vow you take with yourself each morning, renewed with each breath, each decision, each act of tenderness toward your own being. It is a sanctuary you carry, not to escape the world, but to meet it with wisdom. And as you protect your energy, you protect the energy of others, too, because your calm reminds them they can stop performing. Your clarity gives them permission to pause. Your boundaries give them space to meet themselves. Let this be your offering. Not more doing, but more being. Not more giving beyond your edge, but more resting at your root. This is how you walk the middle way, not in theory, but in breath, in boundary, in being. And from this groundedness, you can truly serve, not with your exhaustion, but with your light. So when the noise rises, and the hands tug, and the voices ask more than you have, remember, you are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be fully you, clear, present, alive. That is enough. That is radiant. That is the path. And in that quiet, balanced presence, the teachings unfold on their own, not from striving, not from perfection, but from the peace of one who remembers that every moment is sacred when your energy is whole, your heart is steady, and your spirit no longer trades itself for what was never yours to carry.